Hey, good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Cool. Um, I guess I'm surprised it's just the three of us so far, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's earlier than usual because is it the DC chapter meeting? That's why it's in Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah. What time zone are you on there?
Well, I'm typically Eastern, but today I'm Central because I'm in our Kansas City office. But
Oh,
typically
okay.
I'm Eastern. What time zone are you in, Annette? Annette, I should know that, but I
We're
can't.
East Coast,
East Coast.
HBCC National.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pittsburgh.
That's good.
That's not everybody because you have a lot of remote people now. So
Hmm.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
How are you guys doing?
good.
Good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm good. So I'm Abina. I will be the one kind of kicking everything off this
Cool.
morning with you guys. So thank you for agreeing to be our speakers this morning.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to get, so Guillermo, you will be moderating the conversation, right? So my thought is once we allow the sponsors to do their little 5-minute spiel, I will then introduce you and then allow you to take it from there, introducing the speakers, however you feel comfortable either introducing them or allowing, Annette, Isabel, Heidi, and Eric to introduce themselves, however that works. And yeah, and I think we're going to start off with breakout rooms first.
Okay.
So the format is to allow 30-minute breakout rooms. They'll be facilitated by different individuals. And then we'll go into the thanking the sponsors and then passing it off to you to facilitate. Does that make sense? Any questions or anything?
No, I guess people come in at 9:30 or when
Yeah,
do
people,
the rest?
yeah, people will come in at 9:30. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have time.
Okay. And Guillermo, can you pronounce your last name for me?
I can, but you don't have to try.
Okay.
I said Ortiz de Zárate.
Ortiz.
You could just, yeah. But you can just call me G. I usually go by G.
Okay.
Everybody knows
Actually,
G.
I'm gonna change
Yeah.
name here.
All right.
I feel similarly, G, where, my name is I would probably suggest easier to pronounce, but still. And I'm like, if you just say Isabel, there's not a lot of Isabels in the
That's
industry.
true.
So I think Isabel
Yeah.
will go.
Good morning, Elise.
Hello.
Hi.
Morning, Alyssa.
Morning, everyone. Good morning. Hi,
Hi.
everybody. I'm glad we were able to get on because I had created the meeting, so I'm glad that Abina, did you start it and you had no problems?
No, I thought you started it and I jumped on. So
Actually, I was the first one on, so I don't know what was going on, but I think G started before I did, so I don't know. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
well,
Yeah,
whoever started it, I'm glad it was started. I'm glad it's recording. So
I logged on 8:57 and I was the only one here and it was recording already. I'm like, okay, whatever.
oh, and it's recording.
technology, I don't understand it, but it happened to work.
We might just need to cut this period
This
of
portion,
the
yes.
recording. Yeah, this portion of the recording.
It just goes into a blooper reel. Yeah.
I'm trying to find my headphones that Isabel has. I'm gonna have to look harder because that's what I want to do is have my headphones. But I'm gonna pull out now because I have to. I'll keep this running because I don't know if I'm the owner or not, but I'll just keep this on running and put myself on mute in video. But Abina, do you need anything from me other than this?
Yes, the name of your breakout room.
I don't think I'm handling a breakout room because I'd rather not because of my guys, I have COVID, so I'm just like a little bit sluggish. So I let Ashiel know that, but I also told him that if he was desperate, that I would do it then. Is he desperate?
Well, we have two. So him and Khalil will be doing one.
Okay.
So that's fine.
Eliza, I got COVID too. I
Oh, right
tested
now?
positive.
Oh God, it's like dragging on. Like I don't feel that bad, except this morning I have a massive headache. That's the one thing that's like been consistent, is having a headache. And I lost my sense of smell yesterday, got it back, and now it's lost again.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah.
So
I'm just mad because I went all this time without getting a positive.
Right.
Oh, so
Like,
it's the
oh,
first time for you, G? Oh, no.
first time. Yeah.
it's the first time for me, and I've been boosted
Oh,
and
yeah.
vaccinated and double boosted. I did everything right, except I went to my stepson's wedding, and I probably got it there. So it was for a good cause. Good
Right.
cause.
I think at some point, I feel like some point everyone's gonna get it. Like it's
Especially with this new
inevitable that
variant.
everyone
It's
will
like
get
the
it.
flu now. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree
Yeah.
with you, Isabel, and I think
Yeah.
they're not going to realize they had COVID because they have such mild symptoms.
Mhm.
I
Exactly.
absolutely agree. I think some people have already had it, and don't realize it. And I think that's part of what CDC is saying too.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
it's
just have to give
everywhere.
I just have to give out a shout out to Annette. Hi, I miss you.
Hi, I miss you too. I'm sorry you're not going to ICE. I was like, oh, I'm so excited I would see you there.
I know. And then I used to work together at ONCC.
She was my boss. She was the best boss.
And that is one of my favorite people. She was my colleague. I wasn't her boss. She was my
She was my
colleague.
boss. And she was great.
And she's one of my favorite people and really very
Oh.
talented.
Oh,
So
thanks, Melissa.
I have fond feelings for Annette. That sounded weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
no,
we
absolutely.
totally understand.
Not
Okay,
weird at all.
so I'll take out the break room 3 and just we'll have 2 break rooms.
Okay, if that's okay, let me know if you wanna, let me know if you want me to jump in.
Okay.
You sound bad, Alyssa. You need to take
Yeah.
the stage. You do.
I think
My
so.
mornings are horrible. In the evenings, I'm ready to go do exercise and I've been holding back. But my mornings are the most difficult for me. It's tough in the morning.
I get migraines and headaches are debilitating. Anything is better than a headache. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go then on mute, and if anybody needs me, email me on my work account. I think you all have it as econ@amanet.org. Even though I'm on my home computer on this because I wanted to free up my work computer.
Do
Okay.
you mind typing it on the chat so we have
Oh,
it?
Yeah, because I
Oh.
don't have it. I didn't know. I always reach out to you by LinkedIn or.
or you can you know what? The best thing is to text me. Then I will.
That's what I do. I text you too.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Okay, there you got me. That's really the best way, because this way, if I'm looking at one or two of the screens, that'll ding and you'll get me.
Abina, can we also go on mute for a little bit and come back at 9:30, or do you need us for anything?
Oh no, I think you are good.
I'm gonna go get my tea. It's whistling.
I'm gonna get my coffee. It's not. All right, see you later, guys.
See you guys
Thanks.
in a
See you in a
Thank
bit.
you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for hosting.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Carolyn. Good morning to everybody who is joining us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see some nice faces on the screen. Welcome to CNG's July webinar series. My name is Abina Okran-Jackson. I am Vice President at the Council for Professional Recognition for the Credentialing Department. We are going to start today's webinar with breakout rooms. So you should see an option at the bottom of your screen for breakout rooms. The first breakout room is SME management, which absolutely relates to the topic that we're having today. The second breakout room is remote proctoring. And the third breakout room is an open mic kind of discussion on various topics. So we'll probably spend about 30 minutes in those breakout rooms. And then once we pull you out, then we will be having our speakers and our moderator. I'll do an introduction of them to start our session. So if you can, please go ahead and start selecting your breakout rooms. Good morning for those who are just joining. We are starting off our webinar with joining a breakout room. You have three options here: SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those options to join. Again, good morning to those of you who are joining us for CNG's July webinar. We are starting off the webinar with joining a breakout room. You have three options: SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion. You should be able to find the breakout rooms at the bottom of your options. So please feel free to select one to start our conversations. Good morning, Ivy.
Good morning, Avina.
Again, good morning to those who are joining us. We are starting our July CNG webinar with joining a breakout room. You have three options that you can choose from: SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion. So please feel free to join one of those rooms. And once those conversations are over, we'll bring you back in and turn it over to our moderator and speakers. Good morning to everybody who's just joined us. Welcome to CNG's July webinar. We are starting this off with allowing you to join a breakout room. You have three options: SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those breakout rooms to join the conversation. Good morning again to those who are joining. Welcome to CNG's July webinar. We're starting this out with a couple of breakout rooms. So you have three options to join. You have SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion. So please feel free to join one of those conversations. Again, we have three different breakout rooms for you to join to start this webinar. Good morning again to those who are joining. We're starting our July CNG webinar with the option to join a breakout room. You have three options. The first one is SME management. The second room is remote proctoring. And the third room is open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those rooms to join the conversation. Good morning to those who are joining us for CNG's July webinar. We are starting the webinar with the option to join a breakout room. You have three options: SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion. So please feel free to join one of those rooms to join the conversation, and we will go from there. Khalil, can you join break room number 2? Good morning. Again, good morning. Welcome to CNG's July webinar series. We are starting the webinar with the option for you to join one of 3 breakout rooms. The first breakout room topic is SME management. The second breakout room's topic is remote proctoring. And the third is an open mic, open conversation. So if you can select one of those rooms to join the conversation, that would be wonderful. Good morning, Matthew. Welcome to CNG's July webinar. We're starting the webinar with joining breakout rooms. So you have 3 options, SME management, remote proctoring, and an open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those to join the conversation.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning, Jasmina. Welcome to CNG's July webinar series. We are starting the morning off with breakout rooms. You have 3 options to choose from: SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those to join the conversation. Good morning, Sheila and Carol. Welcome to CNG's July webinar series. We're starting the webinar with the option to join a breakout room. We have 3 topics for today. The first breakout room is SME management. The second one is remote proctoring. And the third one is an open mic, open discussion. So please feel free to select one of those rooms to join the conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning, Sarah. Welcome to CNG's July webinar. We're starting the webinar with the option to join the breakout rooms. We have 3 options. Breakout room number 1 is SME management. Breakout number 2 is remote proctoring. And breakout room number 3 is open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those breakout rooms. Good morning, Baina.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We're starting with our breakout rooms, so.
Oh, I see. Okay, let's see. Management. Open mic.
Good morning, Holly. How are you today?
Morning, how are you?
Good. Welcome to CNG's
Hello.
webinar. We're starting off with breakout rooms. We have
That's
3
right.
options. So you have SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those to join the conversation, and then we'll bring everybody back in.
All right, super, thanks.
You're welcome. Good morning, Michael. Welcome to CNG's July webinar. We're starting out with breakout rooms. You have 3 breakout topic options. Breakout room number 1 is SME management. Hi, Paulette. Breakout number 2 is remote proctoring, and breakout number 3 is open mic. So please feel free to select the breakout room and join that conversation.
Okay, how long are the breakout rooms going on for?
They started at 9:30, and so we should be bringing everybody back in around 10 o'clock.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
Welcome to CNG's July webinar. We're starting out with breakout rooms. So everybody is dispersed into 3 options, SME management, remote proctoring, or open mic discussion. So please feel free to join one of those, and then we'll bring everybody back in to start with the moderator and speakers. Good morning. Thank everybody for joining CNG's July webinar. We're starting off the webinar with breakout rooms. So you have 3 options to join a breakout room. Breakout room number 1 is SME management. Breakout room number 2 is remote proctoring, and breakout number 3 is open mic discussion. So there's probably about maybe 10 more minutes in those breakout rooms. So please feel free to select one of those and join the conversation. Good morning. If you're just joining us for the CNG July webinar, people are in breakout rooms right now. You have three options: SME management and breakout room number 1. Breakout room number 2 is remote proctoring, and breakout number 3 is open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those rooms and join the conversation. Good morning. If you're just joining us for the July CNG meeting, everybody is in a breakout room right now. You have three options. The first breakout room is SME management. The second breakout room is remote proctoring. And the third breakout room is open mic discussion. So please feel free to select one of those rooms to join the conversation.
Thank you. How do I click on it? I think I like to go to the first one.
So at the bottom of your screen where you see the options, where chat, record, you should be able to see 4 boxes that says breakout rooms.
Okay, yes, I saw it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining CNG's July webinar. Good morning, Jack. Thank you for joining our CNG July webinar series. Everybody is in a breakout room right now. You have 3 options. So you have breakout room number 1, which is SME management, breakout room number 2, which is remote proctoring, and breakout room number 3, which is open mic discussion. So feel free to join one of those conversations, but everybody will be probably transitioning back to this room pretty soon.
Okay, how do you select it?
So at the very bottom of your screen, where
Okay.
you have the chat.
Oh, I see. Yep. Gotcha. Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome. So good morning and welcome to CNG's July webinar. Everybody is in a breakout room right now. They probably should be coming back to the main room in a couple of minutes, but there are 3 breakout room options available: SME management, remote proctoring, and open mic discussion.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry I had to join late. I just got pulled away at something at the office.
That is okay. That's what happens, right?
It does.
Well, good morning and welcome back, everybody. I hope you had really good conversations in your breakout rooms. Again, thank you for joining CNG's July webinar. My name is Abina Okran-Jackson. I am Vice President of Credentialing for the Council for Professional Recognition. We are very excited for you to join us this morning for our webinar. A couple of housekeeping rules for today. Everybody was muted once they joined. So if you see that you're not muted, if you would please do us a favor and go ahead and mute yourself. That will help with any of the background noise. Our speakers will be using video. And so we ask that, if you have an option, if you want to use video or not, that is absolutely fine. It might help while they're doing their presentation to maybe go off of video, just so we're more focused on them. We have the chat open, so please feel free to submit your questions through the chat feature. And the session is being recorded and will be available after the session, so that if you have to jump off or if you want to share it, you have that option of doing that. So again, thank you for joining us. And of course, we want to thank our full CNG sponsors. We would not be able to provide these webinars that have been happening through the year without them. So we want to make sure we give them a huge thank you. That's Certiverse, Examity, PSI, Lineup, Prometric, Measure Learning, Pearson VUE, and BTL Surpass. So thank you. We also want to thank our supporting sponsors. They also make it allowable for us to put on these webinars. So that is ASIS International, American Association of Medical Assistants, HUMRO, CMA, SHRM, and BCSP. Today's showcase sponsors are Lineup and PSI. So we will allow each representative about 5 minutes to just give us an update of who they are and maybe what's interesting and going on in their organization. And we will start with Lineup. Aisho, you are on deck.
Hey everyone, my name is Aishil Parmentier. I am Director of Account Management with Lineup. I hope that you're all familiar with our service, but if you're not, Lineup is an easy to use volunteer and committee management platform. We enable organizations of all sizes to move beyond spreadsheets. We're always amazed that a lot of you out there are still using spreadsheets, and if you are, feel free to reach out. We can help you get beyond that. We're a cloud-based solution that helps you efficiently and effectively recruit, vet, and assign individual contributors and SMEs to your committees and other critical organizational projects. I also, if you could want to go to the next slide, I just wanted to maybe not hit you over the head with our sales stuff, but talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing over the next quarter. These are some of our upcoming features that we're really excited about. Something that I'm particularly really excited about is our interest board. We're going to give organizations the opportunity to post their upcoming events through Lineup and allow for your volunteers or SMEs to raise their hand and say that they're available or interested in participating. That's something that's really exciting. Something that I think that's going to really change what we're doing is workspaces. So basically, your organization can utilize Lineup, and each department can have their own workspace within Lineup that's not commingling their volunteers. So the board of directors and whoever's managing that can have their own workspace, and the people managing the SME program can have their own workspace, and the volunteer committees can have their own workspace, and none of them are commingled, so everybody can have their own area to work. We're also always working on removing some of the friction around communication. So you can already email and send forms and surveys through Lineup, but what we're working on is some mail merge. So we're bringing in some of the personalization. So bringing in people's first name, last name, the organization they work for. And then finally, we're working on bringing in legal disclaimers. We already do a lot of this, but being able to put them through different communications in Lineup. So you can have those non-disclosure agreements and conduct policies already in the forms and know that your SMEs have filled those out. And Abina, if you could go to that last slide. If you're interested in learning more about Lineup, here you can reach out to our website, go through any of these avenues. I would also encourage you to just reach out to me personally. I'd like to think we're a friendly bunch. So feel free to email me. I'd be happy to show you more about our solution. And thanks for CNG for hosting. We're always glad to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Aisho and Lineup, for sponsoring. We're going to go to our next sponsor, and that is Dave from PSI.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. So good morning, good day, everyone. My name is Dave Skarupa. I'm Business Development Director at PSI, and I'm based near the Baltimore, Maryland area. While relatively new to this role at PSI, I have actually a long history in the testing certification field. I've been a CNG member for a while myself, so certainly recognize many names here and faces online, so that's great. On behalf of PSI and my colleagues across the country and world, it's a pleasure to speak with you all as today's session sponsor. Second slide, please, if you haven't switched. So as a brief update on who we are, PSI has existed for 75 years, actually, including experience delivering remotely proctored assessments for the past 20 years or so. And we've been growing and evolving significantly. Hopefully you're aware, but if not, we are a full service provider offering test development and psychometric support with over a dozen experts focused on certification alone. In fact, my colleague Isabel Gantier, our Senior Vice President of Assessment Services, is presenting on today's session. So if you don't know her already, you will soon meet her. And PSI offers complete multimodal delivery across physical test centers in over 140 countries, remotely proctored options, of course, and event testing, all to deliver about 17 million assessments a year. Also, in very recent news this week, you may have noted that PSI and the American Association of Medical Assistants, or AAMA, just announced our partnership to grow that program, so we're very excited about that. Ultimately, at PSI, we look to create exemplary experiences for our client partners and their candidates, be it through the test taker experience, client support, or psychometric expertise. And to that end, we've created some industry-inspired pieces, such as our recent test taker experience one. That link is displayed on screen, or the third slide there, if you will. And that will take you to a path of information to read more. That's really what I had for today. So thank you very much for listening. And if anyone has any follow-up questions or would like to chat, you know how to find me. I look forward to it. Vina, back to you.
Thank you so much, David, for intro and for sponsoring this webinar. So today's webinar is how being intentional with your SME program affects your exam. So we've got a great lineup, moderator and speakers that will, get us started. So I would like to start off by introducing our moderator for today's webinar. Guillermo, he likes to be called G. Most of you know him. He is the CIIO at NCARB and president of Lineup Marketing Services. So I will turn it over to Guillermo.
Thank you, Abina. A nice pun when you said we have a good lineup. I really like it. Thank you for that. Well, thanks everyone for coming. So many friendly faces that I see. I sound a little bit stuffy today because I tested positive yesterday. The timing. I went 2 years of this pandemic without testing positive, and now it had to happen at some point. So I apologize. I'm going to blame my COVID brain throughout the session. If I make mistakes. I will take that excuse in a second. Okay, so I want to start by letting my experts here in the panel introduce themselves, and I want to start with Annette. Are you there?
I am here. Hi, thank you, Guillermo. My name is Annette Harry Bush. I am the Director of Credentialing for the Hospice and Palliative Credentialing Center. We are healthcare driven, nursing in particular. I've been in credentialing for 15 years and certainly have enjoyed working with our subject matter experts, and looking forward to sharing what we do. Hopefully it'll give you guys some insight into what works for us. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Isabel.
Sorry, I'm struggling with the mute button. You would think that I would have it all organized and lined up by this time, but hey. So I'm Isabel Gonti. I'm the Senior Vice President of Assessment Services at PSI. Extremely excited to be part of this conversation. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years now, and have had the opportunity to work from different angles. Like I've been in a credentialing organization, managing the programs and the subject matter experts and the engagement and all of that. And then I've been, like I am now, like on the vendor side, where I'm supporting a number of programs in developing valid, reliable, and fair examinations. So I'm excited with this conversation and, to be part of this panel. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Isabel. Heidi.
Hi, thanks, Guillermo. My name is Heidi Schreifels, and I am with F5 Networks. We're a tech company. We specialize in security and optimization, application delivery, networking. I had mentioned this in the other breakout session, but most of you probably already this morning have used our technology and just aren't aware of it. It sits, if you've booked a flight, if you've traded stock, if you've done anything online banking, we're the organization that's making sure that that is all secure and optimized for you. So as you can imagine, having a certification program for a tech organization has its challenges. We are a global program, and I've been involved in it since its inception, which is, gosh, we're going on now, I think 11 years. It is a global program. We are currently delivering 10 exams with probably 8 certifications that align to those exams to thousands of candidates. So you can imagine the requirement for subject matter experts, 1, from a global audience, and 2, that are technically savvy, and 3, getting them to be able to write items well, is a real challenge. Throwing onto that we are a very lean organization. It's mostly just me. So I want to say thank you to Lineup. This is my only little plug, but I was one of those people who was managing all of our SMEs through spreadsheets, and now I don't have to do that anymore, and that is a game changer. Full disclosure, we also have partnered with Alpine and Certiverse. So those are the different organizations that we work with. Yeah, so we have most recently, we have started to develop our certifications in a very different way than we have traditionally, where we would bring all of our SMEs in to a location and have them write items. We now are going to an asynchronous model where we're doing that. So it's a different methodology, it's a different approach, it's a different way to recruit and retain SME talent. And so yeah, happy to talk about all that today. I think somebody's turning the lights down on me around me. But looking forward to today's discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. So good to have you. Eric.
Hi, Guillermo. Thank you for having me. My name is Eric Nepomuceno. I'm the examinations manager at CFP Board. We provide certification for financial planners in the United States, and I've been in credentialing for about 15 years now. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I'm G, the president of Lineup, and Lineup, as Ashel said, is maybe the single and the only subject matter expert platform designed just to do that. And as you will see throughout the questionings today, we really care about subject matter experts. We really do. So I want to get started with the conversation, and I want to start by hopefully asking Isabel. We're looking at the SME programs as actually not just an afterthought, but actually it's a program. And in that sense, maybe we start with how do we go about attracting SMEs to actually participate in this program? So Isabel, is there a need to attract them? And if so, what are some ways that you or your clients have done it before?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the most important elements around attracting the subject matter experts and getting them interested in wanting to participate, it's to clearly communicate the value proposition to your subject matter experts in terms of what's in it for them. Like, how would they benefit from participating and getting engaged in your exam program, in your certification program? Make their engagement and involvement visible in order to bring awareness to the population. So really enhancing the profile, because they're so precious. Your subject matter experts, we all know that they're so precious and important to the success of your certification program. So by bringing the awareness, the value, showcasing that, promoting the involvement, it could be like by making them visible, making volunteer profiles on your website, or communicating to your certificate population. There's different ways of making that visible and enticing. So then it becomes very interesting to say, hey, I want to be part of that group. I want to engage. This is important for my profession. So it starts with that, the value proposition. I think another element as well that I find over the past few years that's been kind of a little bit more challenging, but also interesting, is around how to attract subject matter experts to participate in the virtual environment. So, sometimes, before you can attract and entice people to say, hey, come over, travel and accommodations provided, we're going to get together, have some nice dinners. There's a lot of perks associated with that. But with the virtual world, it's a little different. It's as valuable, but in a very different manner. So it's kind of trying to see how you want to position that. Obviously, leveraging the technology, there's ways to use the technology to fully engage people and actually use that to your advantage, where you can broaden the spectrum of the coverage and the type of people you can actually engage in your program, because you're not limited by some travel cost, or and traveling also takes time. So the access to a virtual environment, again, it's promoting those elements. And then, as I mentioned, leveraging the technology there to get them engaged and make that interesting for them to want to participate is really critical. Like thinking of getting them to connect in smaller groups through the breakouts, through group interactions, through groups activities, because again, attracting them also relate closely to their ability to connect and network with their peers. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
More than 2 cents, Isabel. Thank you for that. And I hang on to the explaining the value proposition and how we all as humans think always start with what's in it for me. That resonates a lot with me, especially when you're asking them to give you their time and their expertise like that. Heidi, I'm really excited that you're here in this CNG meeting. You bring a very interesting, different perspective as the certification manager for a technology company. And you mentioned the volumes you handle are extreme, right? The pace of change for you, your product changes very quickly, and then you have to adjust the exam. So what are your considerations when you're trying to attract these subject matter experts?
Yeah, so I had mentioned, I think in the breakout session, that a lot of our SMEs come from our candidate population. So the people who consume our exams, who consume our certifications, who achieve them, are also the people who are contributing to them. I also had mentioned that we're a global program, and I know G's going to get into, we're going to talk about diversity and the intent of having a very diverse pool of SMEs, so I won't dive into that right at this moment. But we, our SMEs are an interesting lot. One, they know how they would just go in and break the system for fun, not for malicious reasons or to get an advantage, because they know, like, they see the value in a certification, and they're also a very competitive lot. So they do not want somebody else to have a pass and not have to do the work in order to achieve the certification. And our program, we just test. We're not teaching. We are not requiring other activities in order to become certified. We test them. If they pass the test or tests, then they are deemed to achieve that certification. If they don't, they're not. So we have found that creating that community, and really to what Isabel had said, having that community where we're connecting these like-minded people who, yes, they're a little bit competitive with each other, but and I can speak to when we were doing these more in person, you would have a SME in there saying, this is correct, this is a great question, this is what should be asked. And then there would be somebody over to the side and say, no, you're wrong. And it would just be like this big battle. But then once that person was proven that they were not correct, there's so much respect and learning that happens in that environment. So we've been trying to kind of shift that into a virtual environment, still create the integrity and the quality and the competitive spirit, but also the supportive spirit in that community. It's really unusual in our industry where you have somebody from a global bank next to an airline, sitting next to somebody in support, who they all are learning from each other. And so we're really trying to create that environment. Also, our subject matter experts are our customers, our partners, and our employees. So we do not limit it, and we do not limit our scope to just the internal F5 employees, because we know that we would not end up with very good exams. They would be very one-sided, and we want to make sure that we're creating a value to our candidates by having the right SMEs in the room writing the right questions. And by room, I do mean virtual as well. One of the things that I sort of has always been my mantra in recruiting SMEs and nurturing those relationships is a quote that a friend of mine said many years ago, and it was, "Gentle pressure applied relentlessly." And really, that is what it takes. Like, it's not a nag. You're not nagging them because it's encouraging, but it is gentle pressure, being that reminder, being that encourager, and connecting those people, connecting them so that they can create these relationships, help each other out, develop professionally, personally, and they. Our SMEs they're a quirky bunch, but they're rad. I affectionately refer to them as my engine nerds.
Engineers. Heidi, I'm going to come back to you in a second with a question about, you told me once you do put some effort on helping them get executive buy-in. So I'm going to come back to you if you remember that. In the meantime, Annette, you're in a different industry, in the healthcare industry. So how is that different for you and your bunch or your lot, as Heidi puts it?
I guess what I'm looking at is what do we do to bring our SMEs in? And there are two programs that we do that I think do lend itself to our SMEs. One is the Hospice and Palliative Nurses Foundation. They offer an Emerging Leaders Award. And this award is designed to celebrate and encourage early career hospice and palliative nurses. As we know, for SMEs, we need early entry in order to do our item writing, our form development, our passing point studies or standard settings, role delineation studies. And this award, they're required to be under the age of 40 or have less than 5 years experience in hospice and palliative nursing. Their volunteer experience as SMEs is considered for the award. So that's one thing that we do in order to encourage the early entry nurses, licensed practice nurses, in order to become involved as SMEs. Also, later on in in the process, Hospice and Palliative Nursing Association, what they do is they has a designation called a Fellow in Palliative Care Nursing. And it's bestowed upon HPNA members who have made significant contributions to HPNA, HBCC, and or HPNF. And what it does is it identifies what they do to impact the field of hospice and palliative nursing. And one of the criteria for the FPCN includes a pre-application and checklist that awards points for volunteering as an SME. So again, this is one of the ways that we are trying to have our volunteers come in and see that value. So it's, again, it's what is it for me? If you're looking at, maybe an Emerging Leader Award or be a Fellow in Palliative Care Nursing, these are a couple of ways that we do what we do in order to encourage the SMEs to volunteer.
Very cool and very different. Thank you. I appreciate that, Annette. Eric, you have the financial award in the financial award SME. So another whole different bunch of people. So what do you do to attract them?
Right. So like the others, we also really focus on our messaging in terms of value propositions and participation with CFP board. It's something that we do differently is we also engage a third-party firm to actively recruit volunteers who fit a specific demographic. And what's nice is after the recruitment campaign, we're returned a list that fulfills the demographics and identifies individuals that are available for participation.
Very, very interesting. I have not heard that before, but I can see how intentional that is with a little pun on the name of this session. Heidi, I said I was coming back to you with the executive buy-in. Tell us a little bit about that and what is it?
Yeah, so not only do we champion our program externally, but we do a lot of advocacy internally. to make people aware of it, to articulate the value. And like we all know, it's about what's in it for them. So F5, we're a sales organization. So if certification is going to create more revenue in a long-term investment where maybe that customer, because they're certified in F5 technology, becomes stickier, becomes they know it better, they're more inclined to make that decision or influence that purchasing decision. But we are really fortunate that our leadership team absolutely puts our customers first, and I mean, they our employees as well, but like they really take a human first approach. So anything that our organization can do to help our customers, those individuals, develop professionally or just be more successful at what they're doing is a priority. It's a focus for us for sure. When this pandemic hit, our CEO gave out a company-wide message and said, do whatever it takes to take care of yourself and your customers. Like, don't worry about sales right now. Worry about making them okay. And we're all in this together. We have to look out for each other. So, I mean, at every level within an organization, and I think we're up close to 6,000 employees globally, but the emphasis is really on getting that champion at the top so that message is very clear and it's spread out. And if that's something that from the top down, that leadership team is saying and articulating, and then getting an advocate there and getting a sponsor and getting someone who will really promote your program, really makes it so much easier to have the conversations that you're having from that you're pushing up. When you're trying to recruit those subject matter experts from within, or you're looking for additional resources or revenue or some sort of idea, then it makes that conversation a lot easier. So articulating the value proposition to them, and finding that individual or that group who absolutely believes in what you're doing, it just makes things a whole lot easier.
And it helps them get support from their bosses too, to actually spend that time. So now we discuss a little bit some of the things that you guys are doing to attract these subject matter experts. And now you have, let's say, a good, healthy, diverse pool of talent. What do you do next? How do you go about forming these panels that are going to be creating your exams? Isabel, why don't you tell us from your point of view?
Yeah, so a key element for success is actually the mix of people that you're bringing together and really looking at creating that synergy with the group. It's hard work. The volunteers know it, we know it, whether we're talking about, job analysis panels, item writing is really hard. Item review or standard setting. You really need to make sure you have the right mix of people with the competencies properly trained to really maximize the level of engagement and
I'm moving my head just to make sure I'm not. Isabel, we lost you for a second there. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go to Annette. Annette, how about you? What do you do to form and assemble your panels after you have recruited them?
Sorry, I was muted. One of the things that HPC has to consider is we are accredited by the Accreditation Board of Specialty Nursing Certification, ABSNC, and we have to follow the guidelines for the standards that they set. And the standards do restrict the pool of potential SMEs. The restrictions include year certified, practice setting, demographic representation, gender, etc. So this does exclude SMEs with long-term commitment to hospice and palliative care who want to serve especially for our role delineation studies, our passing point studies, or standard setting committees. So we do have to balance that. We hold, we're getting ready to bring all of our SMEs together. We hold pre-meetings with the new SMEs to meet and discuss the work. Of course, we invite anyone that is an SME to come on in and join. It's not optional. Come on in, talk about what the work is, but get to know these new SMEs that are coming in. we host a welcome dinner reception at the first meeting of the year. So if everyone can get in, because we are doing hybrid meetings, so we have in person and we have some people still doing virtually, try to get everybody together to do a welcome dinner just to kind of introduce each other and do something different other than just beginning that work, but kind of getting everyone to know each other.
I'm muted now. I'm glad Zoom always tells you in a polite way, you're muted. Yes, it's getting them to do that networking a little bit at the beginning and already delivering a little bit on the promise you gave them that what's in it for them. Well, you get to network a little bit. I like that.
Guillermo, may I add a little something to that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I think that also setting clear expectations for what we're asking the SMEs to do and not moving the target on them, letting them feel accomplished in what they have achieved. And we will talk about recognition quite a bit, but you know, with working with a lot of engineers, they want to know what the end result is going to be. They need to know the destination. They don't want you to tell them how to get there, but they need to know what the end result is. We finished a workshop one time. I think we had written hundreds of items, and the goal was a stretch goal of having, and we didn't do two. We came short of approving two at the end of the week. And I had more people who wanted to just stay late, finish, you know, do whatever it took to get those two completed, which speaks volumes about their integrity and their commitment. But having those clear expectations and genuinely recognizing them in that moment, and I think is also very, very important to keep them coming back, which is, gosh, that's just such a great thing to have a SME participate, have a great experience and say, I want to do this again, or what else can I do? Because you no longer have to recruit them. And that's, let's be honest, that's the big effort. That's the big push.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. Eric, what are some of the things that the financial board, financial planners board does to assemble the teams?
Sure. So at CFP board, we really focus on the relationships that we develop with our volunteers. It's important for us to identify good volunteers. For us as someone that works well with others and they're motivated to support our development activities. So what we do is we get to know them as individuals. I often see myself getting invited to escape rooms after the meetings, and we'll all join in and have fun. But through getting to know these individuals, we get to know their strengths, and we place them in placements that really match their strengths and their interests with development. So it's been good that we have these great relationships, and it's sad to see them go when we're rotating them into other volunteer opportunities.
Isabel, is Isabel back? I don't see her in my.
I am.
Cool. Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
What happened.
You were telling us.
Yeah, well, I don't know where it cut, but you know, like I said in the chat, it was brilliant what I was saying. So apparently not enough to stay connected. But you know, just to add to some of the things that you know, were mentioned as well, and it, you know, as I was mentioning, and again, not knowing when I actually cut out, but I think that Eric mentioned it. There's an element of fun to this. You know, I was saying earlier that it's hard work, you know, and you know, people know or sort of know what they're getting themselves into, but by supporting them through the process, engaging them, and then making it fun, it creates that going back to that concept of synergy. And I think that I really want to own in on what Heidi said also, is that, you know, people are not necessarily good in everything, and they're going to get engaged in a specific activity, and it might not be the best use of their talents. So I think you know, looking at that, providing the feedback, from providing the training, and sort of like seeing how you can elevate the subject matter experts, because they want to do a good job. They do care. They want to bring value. They are there because they really want this to lead to something good for their program, because they believe in it, they believe in their certifications. So, you know, again, it's all part of that kind of circle of how do you create those connections and maximize the outcomes.
And I know that many of you told me in other conversations that sometimes you put someone in an item writing committee, and then they're not that good writing items, but that you figure out that they're better reviewing items or doing something else. How do you learn from those moments, and how do you apply that knowledge in the later panels that you set up? Anybody?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, and that's the thing is that you see, for me, through my work with different groups and subject matter experts, is that you're able, let's say they start as, the typical process, and I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but in a way, the way to recruit your subject matter expert, you kind of start with item writing. Item writing is sort of how you kind of get acquainted with subject matter experts, not exclusively, but that's a great way to get people engaged. But again, not everybody is good at item writing, so you can identify that, see how they're doing, see their level of engagement. And through the item writing process, you're also doing some reviews that kind of help you, oh, this person has a really good stance of, and really good at providing constructive feedback on enhancing the items. Oh, maybe they could be part of exam review committee or item review committees that kind of can leverage that. They might not be the best at creating those items, but you're kind of identifying that as you go. And again, it's all about the feedback. I go back to that concept of feedback. Having that conversation, engaging one-on-one with the subject matter experts and discussing how things are going, providing the feedback on the task itself, and then also their interest, because you want to maximize again the engagement for them, and then what they're interested in, because what they're interested in is probably also where they're going to be performing the best.
We also, so F5 technology is very complicated. I joke that I have all of the answers to all of the questions on all of the exams, and I couldn't pass one to save my life. That said, our questions have to be written very simply, very clearly, very, and they're only delivered at this point in English. So we're asking people who maybe English is a second language to spend time, translating. We give them extra time on the exam. But when we're working with our SMEs, we have found that, especially for the people who maybe aren't strong writers, giving them a template to follow, a very basic, simple, formatted template that they can apply over and over and over again. We tell them chances of a candidate receiving all of your questions that you've written are very unlikely. However, what we would love to have is for that candidate taking the exam to recognize the format, the cadence, and really focus in on what is being asked of them to answer. What is the question and what is the correct answer and incorrect answers. So we have found that has really helped our those SMEs who really struggle with the item writing. Also, they're pretty good about coming forward and saying, or you can start to recognize when they are better at taking a drafted item from good to great. We had a couple of subject matter experts who really excelled at distractors, which in technology is tough because they have to be plausible. That's stuff for anyone, but plausible and not made up and actual. It is challenging. There are some questions in the chat, and we struggle with some of these things as well. It's the balance of having people who have a really strong CV who, they're very qualified to write the questions from a technical or a knowledge perspective. But we found that it really depends on the certification and the exam. Having people write items having our SMEs write items who are not as advanced can bring in a whole new perspective and ask really great questions. And that, again, we'll talk about diversity, but that is part of it. Not having always the people who have 20 years of experience or are very senior in their role, having someone who is junior, who is fresh, who is new to the process, coming up with questions as well. And the collaboration then we've found really makes for some very strong items and good exams.
Yeah, it's like, how do you teach people? How do you make sure that people don't write questions thinking about what they know now, but remembering what they knew back then when they were minimally competent, right? That's the hardest thing. Eric, you told me you have some very intentional demographics that you need to look similar to what Annette was telling us from the standards she has to meet. Tell us a little bit about that. What are some of those targeted cities that you look for?
Right. So we specifically target diversities in our volunteer groups, and we actively, we actively recruit and target participation from diverse backgrounds. So we're very intentional with what we recruit. So there's 5 main areas that we focus on when we're looking for diversity. And the first is the business model background of our volunteers participating. So in the financial planning space, there's different business models. And we want to be sure we're covering all these multiple areas that they could be coming from. The second is we want geographic diversity, because we want a good mix of content, and people from different geographies are able to provide different backgrounds for our items. And then age and experience are another category where we want people with a significant experience all the way to people that might have been recently certified. We see that there's a diversity in the type of voice in their writing that comes out. We also focus on gender, and we also target ethnicity. So we want diverse backgrounds in terms of ethnicity as well.
And anything else you want to add? I saw you on mute a second ago.
I know with our standards, we do have our restrictions. We do map out an ideal composition for our SMEs. However, whatever they tell us on the application, it could lead us not to really know what they're trying to tell us. We may not know what they're disclosing, if it's correct or not. One thing we did find is with our passing point studies or standard settings, we're able to bring in a very diverse group, and we've really singled out that group to try to bring them back to become item reviewers and item writers. So that has helped us. If we can really look at our role delineation study group, if we have some really good candidates there, passing point studies, we've been really trying to key in on those and bring those back into the fold with us to work as our SMEs.
Let's move on a little bit from the targeted diversities that you're particularly very intentional about making sure that you have the fresh, the recently certified people and the people with the longer experience, and hopefully you're creating safe spaces where a recently certified person can tell the other one that what they're writing is not really what's the word I'm looking for? Is really not appropriate for the level of knowledge that you're trying to test. Now, you mentioned there's a lot of work here, and we also seen how during the pandemic we went from places where we could take them to a nice hotel in a nice place and have a dinner together and do all the things, to now asking them to do a lot of work in an asynchronous way through virtual meetings and whatnot. How do you keep them motivated? What are some of the things that you're doing to keep them motivated? Eric, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So at CFP Board is very fortunate. Our volunteers are really excited to participate in the work that we're doing. So the best thing that we can do is provide them with all the resources they need, from guidance in terms of item writing guides and the materials that they need, so that we can just get out of the way so that they can do the work that they're doing. But also what we also give them is access to our leadership. So often our CEO comes down during our development meetings and conducts a little Q&A with our volunteers, and they love this access. It's really refreshing for them. So they're given the opportunity to provide feedback on strategic initiatives that our board is looking into. So this is a nice takeaway for us, is that kind of engagement with our leadership, knowing that their participation matters. It's a real motivator for our volunteers.
So you have kind of like a early access to some information or upcoming attractions that they see before others, because they're helping you. I like that concept. Very nice. You also talked about doing the legwork for them, right? Is that what you're saying? Is like you're really taking care of most of the labor intensive stuff. So when they get there, they're ready to go, and just adding value right off the bat.
Right, absolutely. So we really make sure our development team does the legwork. For example, we really press them to do most of the work for the volunteers, so that when the volunteers are in the meetings, they're just engaged in providing their subject matter expertise. Something that we really focus on is that subject matter expertise. So what I find is in presentations, a lot of the times we were teaching SMEs the item writing rules, and it's something that it's great for an editor that's going to edit that and try to identify it. But what we do is we try to remove the barrier, so they're focusing on their subject matter expertise and whether or not the keyed response is technically correct. So things like this help make the meetings move faster. We put the burden on the test developers to really identify any psychometric issues or issues with formatting. And you just really want to get out of the way of the volunteers so that they can focus on their technical expertise.
Yeah, make their time worth it. Isabel, I know you're big on recognition.
Yeah, no, recognition goes a long way for sure. And Eric just mentioned, certain ways that, CFP board has been doing that in terms of the access to the leadership that makes people feel valued. And I've seen that firsthand. I happened to work with Eric years ago. So that's great to see that, it's something that keeps going on, and that's really critical and important. But I think that, it goes to, thanking your volunteers, like valuing them in different ways like that. Looking at having recognition built into your programs in different forms. So sometimes it doesn't have to be money necessarily. Like there's different ways of recognizing the subject matter experts and their engagement. But you know what? There's certain things as well that don't cost a lot of money that are going to make them feel part of the group, that they belong. People like swags, and they like to be associated with their industry organization, with their certification organization. So swags are easy things to do, and they're so happy. It really goes a long way. But also, I've mentioned a bit earlier, looking at profiles. Like you can build profiles and have a little bit of an interview with a volunteer, a subject matter experts. What do you do? How is your work with the credentialing organization? What value do you see? And it's great for the person because it's like, hey, I get to showcase how I contribute, and that's a way to recognize what they do. And it's a win-win in the end. So recognition in different forms will help in keeping people wanting to be part of the group, keeping them motivated. So that's my definitely one key perspective.
We have a client that keeps they assign points, kind of like a loyalty program to their SMEs, and at one point they give them gifts, like logo items, as you say, or things like that. They love it. They love it. Heidi, I know you are also big on recognition in your program. Tell us about how you do it.
So everything that everyone has just been saying, yes, those are all super important, and it's amazing what exclusive swag will do in that competitive spirit as well. If we have had people who will wear, a jacket that it's something that they did that somebody else wasn't able to do, and they're like, how do I get one of those? I'm like, oh, let me tell you. And it's fun, you kind of make it fun. We also are introducing a badging system. So in tech, earning certification badges is something that a lot of people will do. It's very important to them. It's a very easy identifiable way that they can say that they have the knowledge, skills, and ability, and they are certified. So we're also we're rolling out badges for exam development for SMEs who contribute. And we talked about building SME teams a little bit. Referrals are great. When you are working with people who come back over and over again and volunteer and help do item writing or whatever it is, I always ask, do you have a colleague? Do you have a partner? Do you have somebody that you're working with that can, and they'll 9 times out of 10, they're like, yes, absolutely. Let me introduce you to this person. And then you make that connection and you can do a direct invite. We talked about diversity. It's a touchy situation because in many cases there are laws against asking specific questions about someone's identity, and we have to be mindful of that. So referrals are great, and it can help in an indirect way, build a very diverse team. But yeah, badging, genuine appreciation. All of our SMEs are volunteers. We don't pay them, but we certainly recognize reward. We've even looked into my manager and I, we come from the marketing side of the house. That's our background. And anytime you can help somebody kind of advance their career, even if it's like through speaking engagements or through different opportunities. So having somebody who then we get in this, to do item writing, but they're really passionate about this very specific technology or what it is they're doing in their industry, channeling that and opening up an opportunity for them to do something else outside of that SME realm also that's been huge. And we've been able to do that for a few folks. I would love for us to be able to do more of that. But we're working toward it.
There's a great conversation going on in the chat, and I think you, in a way, answer Rhonda's question about are we using badges to recognize people. So very good timing there. Annette, I know you do also some very cool things about recognitions with gifts and whatnot. So how do you do it?
One of the things that we do is we recognize our SMEs annually via a thank you letter and a small gift. Like, for example, we just revised all of our certification pins. So they're getting the brand new certification pins. They can show them off. We also send a letter to the SME's employer detailing the volunteer work if the SME has asked us to. One of the things we just did recently was we posted pictures from our spring 2022 item review workshop on Instagram and Facebook during Nurses Week in May. We're going to meet again in September, so we'll be doing more pictures that'll fall in line with our Hospice and Palliative Care Month, which is in November. So we really tried to highlight them and recognize them.
Yeah, I remember you told me about that, and I thought it was super cool. What I think comes after that. So you've recruited these people, you've assembled them in teams, you learn from what they know and how they can do it, and then you recognize them so that they come back and they can refer you more people. Is there any kind of evaluation that you're doing of your SMEs? Is that important to you? And maybe the question goes around, are you trying to learn from the panels you have now to the ones you're going to create in the future? And how do you go about doing that? So Eric, what do you do on your side?
So in terms of evaluating our meetings and the performance and evaluating our volunteers, we've had mixed results with attempting these. For example, with our meeting evaluations, we found we weren't really collecting useful information because our evaluations were scored really high by our meeting participants. So we'd have to go through other more informal ways of finding ways to improve our processes and make sure that they're getting what they need and we're delivering the results that we need from our teams. In terms of evaluating the SMEs also, it's something that's very time intensive. You can create rubrics for evaluating them or ways to collect the information. But what you need to ask yourself at the end of the day is how you're going to use this data. And the ratings are really subjective at the end of the day. You don't have the time to use a panel. It's most likely that your development team that's rating individuals. But we tend to use a more informal method. So our rules are very simple. If it's someone that doesn't work well with others, we mark them so we don't invite them again for another meeting. But rating the items that are coming out and the SME performance during the meetings, we found it's very difficult. It's something we're still trying to master. But at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself are you going to use this information once you're collecting it?
So you do try to avoid what they call the brilliant jerk, the one that writes wonderful questions, but nobody wants to hang out with them. I heard that before. Annette, what does the HPCC do to evaluate this means?
One of the things that we we introduced our hybrid meetings in 2022 because we're just virtual because of COVID. And after our first meeting this spring, we sent a survey asking for input from our attendees. And I would tell you, our marketing specialist could only ask 12 questions. That was the limit of what you can ask. So just asking 12 questions, we sent them out. We received an 85% response rate back, and we summarized the information. We distributed it to the committee members, and we added additional information addressing the comments that they had in the survey. We also are presenting the survey to the HPCC Board of Directors at this month's meeting. And if there are issues, if we do have issues with a committee member, the chairperson is provided with the information to discuss with the committee member. I agree with you. You can't do a survey asking a person's performance and then not do anything with it. So that's not our intent. If we have an issue or concern, we will address it with our chairperson and then move forward with it if we need to. But I did like our survey. I was really pleased with the fact that we just got such a good response, and people told us exactly what they thought, which is what we're looking for.
Yeah, and the fact that then you share that with your board, I mean, Alex, closing the circle there, right? Heidi, how about F5?
This is one piece that this is an opportunity, if you will, for us. You know, sometimes you just have to make decisions in that at the rapid pace in which we're trying to develop exams and get them out. We haven't done a lot of evaluations. The cool part is that our SMEs are very forthcoming with their opinions about how things worked or didn't work. And that was a lot easier when it was in person. So we're trying to solve that problem too. So I was really glad to hear some of these other suggestions and welcome any other ideas. A short survey, you know, it's a great quick hit, especially if there is an intent, like, you know, with what Eric was mentioning, that what are you using this information for? If it's just to gather it, no one has time to do that. I mean, it's kind of pointless, and it's asking yet one more thing. So having an intent, doing a survey or something that's short and brief, and it's a good, quick, positive hit. It's also another opportunity for engagement, which I know that's, again, an opportunity for us, but it's, you know, you could ask for a recommendation or if they want to volunteer again. So I'm constantly, again, gentle pressure applied relentlessly, always looking at how we can recruit new SMEs and keep the ones that we have.
Well, I know Aisha is going to reach out to you to see how we can help you.
Good.
From that.
That's awesome.
Isabel, I know you have so many thoughts about this, so I left you for last. Go ahead. Tell me.
No. Well, evaluating the subject matter experts, you know, when we think about the quality of their work, the quality and the value of their engagement, in my experience, is something that a lot of programs struggle with. It goes back to, how are you going to use the information? But even like, I'm a measurement professional. What are you measuring and how? Because it can be very subjective. So there's some activities that are easier to measure and evaluate compared to others in terms of the outcomes from your subject matter experts. You know, I'll give you an example. Like, I used to work with a program that had constructed response type questions. So they had markers coming in, or scores, depending on how you want to call them, but markers that were coming in to mark those responses. For those types of activities, it's easy to select different types of measures that you want to assess your markers against, because it's going to be like around the productivity, around the availability of the scoring, because you have concrete information on how they're doing the work, the scores, the consistency of their scores, the volume of the responses that they're marking, so on and so forth, and then the subjective element to it is how they are improving based on the feedback that they're getting. So for those types of activities where you have tangible, immediate outcomes, you can use that information to then determine, is it a good fit? Is it something that, you know, is the subject matter experts really truly someone that brings the value that we need for this specific activity? But then when you think about item writing, for example, well, of course, as you review items, as you work with your subject matter experts, you review what they produce. Again, it's a question of, is it a good item? Well, there's different ways of assessing that. There's that initial review. If it's convoluted and there's too much information, then you can provide the feedback. You'll see what comes back to you and see if, again, the feedback has been integrated or not, and is the item going to be used. But what would actually be super valuable in the end is to see, well, in the end, how is the item actually performing when you administer it, you know, and being able to tie this back to the author. We all know, though, that the items get touched in so many ways, but still, there's some elements there that could be useful to say, measuring the performance, linking it back, and helping provide that feedback, and also making decisions around where and how to involve the subject matter experts. So those are some observations.
Yeah. Oh, I have so much to to
I'm
comment
sure
on
you
that.
do.
I'm gonna try to keep it short, but yeah. So the certification world is one of those where, as you see difference from other ways of forming teams for other projects, it has very factual, tangible ways of measuring the outcome of the work that these people put in, right? So you not only, yes, there's some subjectivity in measuring how they work with each other and how was it pleasurable? Did it mean something? Did they relay well? But at the end of the day, what they're producing is an exam, and you actually have all of these statistics at your disposal to actually maybe bring it back as an attribution model to, how, who was somehow responsible for the quality of that item. And if you can learn from that and merge it with the other subjective evaluations that you're doing, you might actually have all you need to maximize the output of the outcome of these teams, right? So, Eric, you mentioned that is hard, and I really like your comments there. Is there anything you're doing at a team level beyond the individuals? Is there anything that you're doing similarly to those surveys that Annette was mentioning?
Well, we did use the surveys, and we still do. But it's more, I go back to the relationships that you have, and we're constantly trying to recruit new volunteers. But a lot of it, the work we do is also collecting informal information so we can apply and plan to see which teams are working the best and who has strengths. Exactly what Isabel's saying is match them to their strengths. So we find that, item writing, it's a skill. It takes time to really build. It's challenging to expect them to learn to master it from one day training. So it's something that they grow into over time. And then in terms of their meeting participation, we're always trying to provide the best experience for them. So surveys are one tool, working with your internal staff to make sure things go without a hitch, and your timing, your planning is great. And also moving volunteers around so that they don't have burnout, engaging multiple volunteers in different meetings, and extending it over time. It's great. Our volunteers don't like to leave, but we do see burnout. So it's something that you just have to actively monitor, and it takes a lot of legwork.
I think that we have covered the full life cycle of the SME program, right? From recruiting to assembling them to actually seeing how they're performing and motivating them throughout. I want to make sure I'm respectful of everyone's time. I see there's so much good conversation in the chat too. I've been a little distracted trying to follow some of the conversations there. Abina, do you want us to do a little bit of a Q&A with people and see if people want to ask some questions to the experts here?
Absolutely. We do have time, so we can open it up. I've been looking at the chat also, and people are responding. So there are no immediate questions out, but absolutely, if you have a question, please unmute yourself and feel free to either direct it to the entire panel or a specific member of the panel.
And we see there Taryn. Hi.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm full of questions, so I do apologize for a lot of the the back and forth in the chat. And for everyone speaking, I know, and I apologize again because I know I've sent off a few private messages to get some information as well. But this is directed to the entire panel, and it was one of the questions that I posed in the chat as well, around kind of the statement of service, NDA, volunteer agreements. The reason why is, we've been hearing from volunteers, from professionals, that our statement of service, our NDA, may be too much legalese in the document itself, and it might read as, I don't know, too confusing. As we're starting to branch out a little bit more globally, there's a little confusion around the intellectual property, who owns what. So my question is just kind of to the full group. in your agreements, are you being very upright and forthcoming with the intellectual properties, with everything, who owns what? Would love to share or exchange maybe at a later time about that kind of thing, but just getting an understanding from the group around these documents.
This is Annette. I can certainly share that. HPCC does have those documents. They do go through legal. In fact, they've been revised or going through legal at this point in time. We also have an ethics statement that they have to sign. So being nursing and everything else, we're right with the ethics. So we do require all of that, but they do go through legal review.
So I think the other part of the legal, we call it our certification SME agreement, and how you present it, when you introduce it, all of those things are very important. So and I don't want this to sound like a commercial, but it is within lineup. And so when we're collecting demographic information from our SMEs, we tell them, fantastic, now we want to assign, we want to put you into a team. This is the last step. You have to agree to our agreement. And if you don't, that's fine. Thanks. Hope you reconsider in the future. But no, it was written by our legal department, and so our candidates also sign a candidate agreement, which means they won't, cheat, share any whatnot. So it's a parallel document to that, which not all of our SMEs are always our candidates, but eventually they do become that. So having that familiarity and having it introduced at a time in the process that makes sense and really is expected. I haven't had too many people push back on it, but also SMEs drop out in various stages along the process of onboarding. So we're trying to resolve that, but it's you want to save yourself. If I was a security company, and you just do not, I cannot imagine, spending all of the time, all of the money, all of the resources that our SMEs put into this just to have something exposed, and then the value of it is gone. For us, it's gone, and we might as well we have to start over.
We're in the same space as far as when our volunteers sign up for our opportunity. It's one of the first things that they have to do is they have to sign our information. We have to get that before they can move forward. We recently have, again, as we're branching in internationally more, we've recently got a little bit of pushback, and I think it could be a little bit of a language barrier, maybe. We're not really sure. We're working to resolve it now, but we've recently got a little bit of pushback, which is why the question came up and why I was asking that. So just trying to figure out, and to your point, it sounds like, and I think Annette just mentioned it as well, maybe there being an NDA form and then something that's like a volunteer agreement form or something separate, so that there's more kind of, I don't know, the separation might help to enhance what we're asking for, but right on par with what we're talking about. Thank you.
Yeah, outlining and clearly stating responsibilities and accountabilities is really important in the end, because you want to protect the integrity of your program. So it touches multiple aspects of the engagement. And I like the idea. I have to say like this, in the NDA itself, but the volunteer agreement is kind of something that further fleshed out, like, what are the expectations? What are your responsibilities? And that really helps kind of setting those expectations and the tone, and being clear in terms of, because sometimes people don't think about the potential impact. We were talking about the virtual meetings, and in terms of how do you handle sensitive information when you're doing this, in a virtual environment. Like, you don't want to be in a room discussing exam items where there's other people around that can hear, that can gather some of that information. Little things like that you need to make sure are clear, and they understand what their responsibilities are and why it's important.
Thank you for that. And I'm sure you also do some training at the beginning, right? So legal disclaimer, some people, I'm not going to say myself, don't read legal disclaimers. Well, sometimes I don't. But it's like at the beginning of the process, you probably train them again, right? And tell them this is the things that you need to expect. I'm guessing. Any other questions for the panel? And yes, I see some people thanking the experts today and how good your conversation has been. So I'm also very thankful for you being here and helping us. Any other questions? Okay, so then what I'll do, Abid, if that's okay with you, I want to see if I give each one of these experts a final closeout thought. What is the one takeaway that you would hope people leave today with from all the things we talked about? Eric, why don't we start with you?
I think that my key takeaway is what's really important for me is creating relationships with our volunteers. It's not a one-way street. We really focus on these relationships and making sure there's a benefit for them in participating. And we find that they often find that benefit and they like to come back for more and recommend participating to other professionals in the field. So it's kind of like we develop champions over time through their participation with our organization. So it's something that if you focus on that, it will take care of itself. They become loyal to your group. And some of these issues with the NDAs and rules for participation get fleshed out. You know, in our industry, our exam prep providers are actively recruiting our volunteers to provide information to our candidates that are working on these. And these types of relationships matter, and being clear with what our restrictive covenants are after they participate with us, so that we're all in alignment in terms of the legal requirements and our expectations for participation.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Annette, what's a final thought?
I feel bad for Eric because he kind of took all the ideas I had. But, you know, working with SMEs for 15 years, I have enjoyed working with them so much because you get to know them as a person. You get to know, I mean, I've maintained relationship with them through, like, from the first time we started, and you can always draw on them if you're having an issue or a concern. Sometimes they might give you something back that you hadn't thought about. But it's really important to develop those relationships and nurture them, and really to kind of keep them out of the weeds, like have them do what they're supposed to be doing, not getting involved in things that really they don't have to worry about. Don't worry about what you're going to get fed. Don't worry about that. Let's just get you doing what you need to be doing and giving them all their tools. I think that's so important, but sometimes that's a money issue because sometimes you can't give them all the tools, but have everything as easy for them to be able to do their work. And I think that is one thing that I've learned over time, and we really try, and no matter how hard it is on us, it doesn't matter. It's what we need them to do that work, and we need them to do a really good job at it and feel comfortable, but also to know that there's a human side, that things happen, that they can't complete their work, and you have to let it go. They can't complete the work. That's fine. Let's accept what they've done and move on, and see if they're available to help us further on.
Thank you, Annette. I like that. SMEs are people too.
They are.
Heidi, final thoughts.
Yeah, so I agree with what the rest of the panel has said, and it's such a good opportunity to learn from everyone on here, and even with the questions, it raises good ideas. Having been part of a very small program, or just a couple of us who are developing all of these exams and certifications, working with our SMEs, you absolutely have to create a community. This is really to Eric's point, create that community, create an environment where you can have advocates who are looking, who are reaching out and doing more than you could ever even hope for. A quick story, when Ken and I first were spinning up this program, my manager and I was doing exam development and he was running the program. We published our first exam and we had a group on LinkedIn, and it was a very active group, very noisy, and it was awesome. And somebody jumped on and said, "Hey, where can I find the F5 exam dumps?" Ken and I both just sat back and said, "Okay, let's see what happens." There were no less than a dozen other candidates who were also our SMEs who had written the exams and created them from the test design all the way to the standard setting and and everything, saying, how dare you ask for that? You should be kicked out of the program. That's not what F5 is about. If you don't do the work, you don't deserve the certification, blah, blah, blah. That person faded away who asked that question. But there's no way that Ken nor I could have answered that in a better way than our group of candidates and SMEs who take pride in what they're doing, who created something really valuable for themselves, for our company, for their community. So nurturing that community and making it fun. Our jobs they're hard. There's a lot of work that has to be done, a lot of different hats, a lot of different moving pieces. I'm so happy to connect with all of you because it reassures me that we're not in this alone. But creating that sort of environment for our SMEs in the community that's going to pay huge dividends at the end.
Thank you, Heidi. Isabel.
This is so insightful. I just love this conversation and all the points that were brought. It's just, it makes me feel so good about all of this. But the key takeaway for me, and then again, I want to bring back that concept of articulating the value proposition and really creating that sense of belonging and engagement, really leveraging the pride that people take in being engaged and involved with your program. That is golden. Think about, one thing that, people will share the experience and you want to bottle that up and share that with others, because in the end, that's how they feel they're part of something important. And that's how you get them engaged, motivated, and you get the maximum from contribution and outcomes from your SMEs.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all of the experts today. As everybody's saying in the chat, wonderful conversations. We could keep going, and I'm sure, hopeful that we see each other in person again soon, and because that usually means we can mingle afterwards and talk more. But I'm gonna bring it back to you, Abina, and thank you so much, everyone.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. So, of course, let's start off by thanking our sponsors again for this week. Thank you so much, G, for moderating this wonderful conversation. Thank you, Annette, Eric, Heidi, and Isabel for a great conversation, and for everybody who's been joining and asking questions and making comments in the chat. We greatly appreciate you spending time with us. As we talk about or think about our next webinar, we are planning a webinar in September, and the session title is Career Paths to Credentialing. And so we're looking for speakers. So if anybody is interested in participating on that webinar and being a speaker, please reach out to us. IB is posting an email in there for herself and Allison, who are kind of coordinating that whole webinar. So if you are interested, please reach out to one of them. Additional announcements, there's a call for nominations, which is now open. So please visit the CNG leadership page website for information to apply for the board or part of the program committee, whether that's Chicago or DC. We'd be excited to have new people on there. And then I just want to kind of open up if there's other announcements that anybody wants to make in terms of job openings or anything that might be going on in their area. We'll open it up for a couple of minutes for you to kind of share that with the general public. Not everybody rush at once. No? Well, if there are no announcements from others, then again, thank you so much to
Abina?
Oh, yes.
Abina, I'm sorry, just a reminder about the call for participants in the September 28th. Did you mention that?
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did make that statement.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
No, you're okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I do have a question. Can you say again what the next month's meeting is on? The topic.
So the one that I just mentioned is for September, and the title is Career Paths to Credentialing.
So we're looking for, I'm sorry, this is Alyssa. We're looking for people who got into their careers as credential specialists through some sort of back door. Like, for instance, I have a doctorate in music composition. Who would have thought I would be a certification specialist? Some people are lawyers and became certification specialists. Some people are programmers, became certification specialists. So we're looking for stories about how people became the certification specialists that they are. How did they fall into this? There really isn't a career path unless you're going to become a psychometrician. There really isn't a career path for test development professionals. So we're looking for people who wouldn't mind sharing their stories.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alyssa.
And if you're not going to get a good response, I guess I'll throw my hat in there, Abina, just because I don't know many composers who are test development specialists.
You might be right on that one. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining us today. This was a great conversation. Hope to keep this going. And if not, enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.